Hi, everybody. Happy Saturday. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. So, welcome to have you here in the morning for me. I'm super excited for our guest of the day. I love to meet people from around the world, and I love to meet people that is Latinx like me. I always feel like I always say that we are sister countries. We belong to the same part of the world. So I love that. But mostly, I love that we can share our experience as a UX designer in any part of the world. I think this is so empowering for all of us that are coming into the field and that we are changing careers. So let's welcome Paula, and she can tell us about herself. Hi, Paula. How are you?
Hi, Juliet. I'm doing good. How about you?
Good. It's so exciting to have you. We met maybe even months ago, and we've been waiting for this moment for a while. But why don't we tell people who you are?
Yeah, sure. I'm a Brazilian UX researcher, and I've been working in this field for about a year, almost a year and a half now. And I changed careers in last year, 2021, from logistics. So I pretty much stayed almost 3 years in the freight forwarding industry. And then I kind of decided that I wanted to do something different, something a bit more meaningful, and something that was uh, closer to things that I really enjoyed doing it. So basically, in 5 months, 5 or 6 months, I made this transition from logistics to UX. And now I work at a consultancy agency in focusing design and innovation. And I'm part of like several projects along the year where I can learn a lot from different industries and help to build the UX research culture within business.
Super cool. And before we enter into the real topic of today, why don't we tell people like a fun or interesting, unique fact about you?
Yeah, so one of these is that I am super good and I really enjoy playing cooperative board games. And I don't know if you have ever heard about them, but basically, those are board games where you play with a team against the board. So if everybody wins, everybody wins. If everybody loses. So, and they are very interesting type of games because you have to be very strategic, you have to cooperate with your colleagues, you have to think ahead to understand what may happen that can destroy your whole strategy. So those are pretty fun. Like some of them, for instance, are like Zombicide and Spirit Island, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Those are all types of board games, collective board games where you can play against the board. And I really encourage people to try at least once because it's a very fun way of team building as well.
I feel like for these, you need to know a lot of rules. I feel like these games are like you need to be real about glues. Is this like I forgot the name of the show. Stranger Things. I don't know if you have watched Stranger Things that they
No,
kind
I
of play.
haven't watched Strange Things. Sorry.
Oh, me too. But I feel like it's kind of like you have this book with everything that you have to follow to be able to win. Yes.
You do have a lot of rules. Sometimes they're like an RPG style where you have to find certain stories, but some other times you just have a lot of rules. So we kind of start to prepare like hours ahead to understand all the rules. We watch videos on YouTube. And even so, there are times that we play the game for like 2, 3 days to find out that we were playing it wrong. So like they are very complex type of games, and it takes a lot of corporation to get it right.
I feel like this is super interesting, kind of thinking. Now, let's put it together to what we do day to day as a designers. And I feel it has to do a lot with you being a strategist.
Yeah.
So maybe let's jump into what we came for. I know that you told us a little bit in your transition going into UX. Um, but how did that happen? Why? I know that you wanted to help people. Why was not that happening in your previous career, and how did you ended up in design?
Yeah, so well, I was pretty miserable in my past career. Basically everything was so mechanic to me already. I was doing things just I already knew how to do pretty much everything. So every day was always the same thing. I mean, different problems, but same ways to solving them. So I was really tired of it. And it's going back to a little bit of my past. Like, I was in the marketing industry for a while, and that was something that caught my attention. And I also did a program in actually Ohio University, which was an exchange with my college here in Brazil, which was a business consulting program. And I remember back then, and that was like 2013, so about 9 years ago. I remember that I was very excited about it because it was super fun that they gave us a real case of a burger place and how we could improve sales of this place. And we did a lot of research. We've interviewed people. Basically, we did a couple of things that we do in UX, but I didn't even know that it was related to UX. And then we delivered like a business plan to this business owner. And back then I thought, okay, that's really cool. Consulting is really cool. It's something that I wanted to do. But getting into consulting agencies like the big ones, like Bain and Company and so on, it's pretty hard when you don't come from a economics or business background. So I kind of gave up on that. And then when I was almost finishing my international relations degree, I ended up studying mediation and conflict resolution, which was something pretty interesting. And it was what I came to international relations for. That was my main goal, to help people mediating conflicts, being kind of a Gandhi type of person. But that was also something very hard to do. So I kind of I always wanted to be in this field, in this part of field, like the consulting one, and then mediating things. But then I got dragged to logistics, which was at first very interesting, but then I just got very tired of it. And all those things kind of brought me together when I started to research areas in technology that I could use some of my previous skills. And UX have had had, had a lot to do with talking to people and understanding problems, which were things that I knew how to do in a way because I actually graduated as a certified mediator here in Brazil. So it's something that I really like to do. And it had also the thing with the consulting part. You have stakeholders and you have problems that you need to understand and to act on it. So all those things brought me to UX. And then when I started to actually understand what UX was all about, then it kind of clicked. Like, okay, that's what I want to do in technology.
Um, I really like how do you and I don't know if this was something that you knew from the beginning, but how you started connecting your past experience of the things that you were good at it, the things that you knew how to do with UX, because I feel like this is kind of um, the most important step when you are taking of changing careers, that you need to be really clear about these strengths and how these strengths link to the career that you want to go in this case for us it was UX design. But I think this is just so powerful when you start clicking that and it's like, okay, I have done this in the past. Maybe it's not in like a tech project or exactly in UX, but I have taken the steps and I know how to do the process. So for me, I think this is such an important thing of changing careers. Something that I'm really interested to know is how is to do this change in Brazil? Like, again, I'm here in Canada. I have talked to a lot of people in US. Uh, but I don't know what it is to be in Brazil, as how hard or how easy, or what do you need to pay attention, like what to do in Brazil if you want to go into the UX market.
Well, I mean, for me, it was sort of, I'm not gonna say easy because it was a whole process, but it took me like 5 months. That's not a lot of time to change careers. Um, what I what I understand from the Brazilian market are two things. One of them actually makes me a bit angry with it. Is like, first of all, you have a lot of schools here. There sells UX as like the future career where you're gonna make millions, and it's gonna be like just, I don't know, rainbows and butterflies and like all sorts of ice cream flavors, and they sell like those courses for a high price. I see, and they sell this dream of what the career is, and it's not that like they tell you that, okay, you can do it in 3 months or so, but they kind of do it in a way that makes people think, especially somebody that is desperate to change careers, that it's going to be something easy. And I don't think it's easy. I think it takes a lot of work. It took a lot of my time. And when it comes to Brazil itself, I feel like that's the main issue. The first main issue that I want to point out is that I think there are a lot of people in the market selling this UX dream in a non-tangible way. It's gonna take a lot of time. You don't have enough junior opportunities at this point to the amount of people that want to enter the field, and there are a lot of people that are very mad when it comes to the job titles and job descriptions, because there are a lot of junior positions that require at least 1 year in the field, and some people, they don't understand that like a junior position is not an internship position. They are different. An internship, they shouldn't be asking for experience, but a junior position, you can require experience for a junior. And as of right now, a lot of people coming into this field, they just don't have any. They have like their courses and boot camps, things like that, but they don't have their hands on per se. So that's one thing. I also see a bit of a lack of putting yourself out there when it comes to young professionals that want to enter this field. They do a lot of courses, but they don't really show the world what they are doing, what they are learning. And that's another point that I think really helps, which it is, if you do something, you have to show people what you're doing and how you're doing, how you're learning and growing from that. And but it's tough. I mean, it's not easy to get a job in UX in Brazil. I don't find it easy. I find that a lot of people, they still don't quite understand what UX is. You see a lot of jobs that require like graphic design, and when you see the job descriptions, you see a lot of things related to marketing and SEO and nothing really relating to UX. So I also see that some companies, they have a little bit of an issue to understand today what UX is all about. So that's also something that gets a little bit in the way, because you ended up getting a lot of people frustrated when you sell a position as UX, and then you ended up doing, I don't know, marketing ads or something like that. So I also see this as a problem. And yeah, I guess those are some of the things that I
Yeah.
could tell
Now,
you.
I mean, this make me think about maybe how, as in North America, this was a little more popular as a UX designer, or even Europe, and how Latin America is start taking, like replicating what is happening in here, because it sounds the same as in Canada, at least. Is like how boot camps. I come from a boot camp. Really sells you the idea of like how fast are you going to get the job, and how easy it is, and they're really expensive. Like I don't know who has the money to spend in something like this. I was lucky enough to get help from the government at one point, but it's like what do you do? It's like 3 months, and with that money, you can go to a really good university here and get a 2 years degree kind of idea. Even though this is a different story, but is how they keep replicating in like, okay, so North America is doing this, and I imagine that is working from them, so let's just replicate it here, and really not looking at what the market is needing or what is really important. But I think that that's a big point about the job description. You have to do everything. I mean, it's cheaper if one person can do all of it, even though it's not UX related, but is creative and is designing it. I don't know if this makes sense, but then just start putting the user experience, that is the really important part of UX design, on the side, as you need to know all this marketing and selling, and put all this hat on because it's just cheaper. So I feel like it's maybe that's more in Latin America for sure, that they it's a career that is still in, and people is still knowing don't know what to do with UX designers in a company, and they try to give them all the jobs that they are creative. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it could be. It could be something from here as well. But you know, when I look at other job opportunities in like other countries and especially Europe, I do see uh, a lot of opportunities that some it's a bit iffy if that's really UX. But I also see a lot of uh, companies that they want UI. You know, they don't want anybody from they don't want the UX part. They just want the visual part. And I think that's an issue as well because uh, I don't know if they are understanding it, if they are getting it all wrong or what's going on. But I do see a lot of focus on product designers when it comes to job opportunities elsewhere. And I don't see that as strong here. I mean, of course, there are opportunities for product designers here as well as for UX researchers. But I see that like when it comes to at least talking about my specific part of the umbrella, the UX research side, I do see that a lot of companies, there are a lot of job openings in Brazil for UX researchers. But when it comes to Europe, for instance, you do see a lot of openings for product designers. You don't see as much strength in UX research as you see, at least in Brazil or for companies in Brazil. And I don't know. And even when I was looking at like courses to attend in Europe, uh, education that I could get there, I didn't see a lot in UX. You do see a lot in visual design, experience design, interaction design. And the only thing more or less related to UX is more the field of human computer interaction, HCI. But something that is more related to UX is harder to find. And I think it's still um, overseas is also an area in some countries that you still need a little bit more attention and understanding of what we actually do.
Yeah, and I think this brings us a good point to the next question. Is like, why did you ended up going into UX research? Like, why did you choose that path?
I like to say that it's kind of the path that chose me, or rather than the other way around. I was actually very when I received this offer of working as a UX researcher. Uh, I kind of had to really see if it was something that I wanted to do because I didn't want to be in a position where I would go to a field and then from that field I would be in a little bit of a cage, you know, and not being able to see other parts. But I mean, I needed to take the shot, you know, I needed to take it and I needed to basically leap of faith that it was going to be something for the better. And when I accepted the job as a UX researcher, I started to understand that like UX research was so much more than what they show us in some courses and in some boot camps. You know, UX research is like almost the core of everything. I'd like to put it this way, because it's like you can do the first part of the whole discovery process and understanding the problem, but you can also go as further as uh, doing the ideation session, leaving the screens for a product designer or UI designer, and then getting it back for a usability test, for instance. So you can basically be part of the whole UX process, of the whole design thinking process. And that really opened my mind, because I saw that it was a type of career where I could have access to a lot of knowledge from basically all the parts of UX, except not so much from the UI aspect of it, but from all the other aspects, I could have access to it and learn a lot from it. So it kind of chose me, but I do. But if I could like give a piece of advice to any person, is that it is a very great career. I mean, it's something very fun to do, and a lot of great people work with it. It's challenging when you end up with stakeholders that don't quite understand UX, and there are plenty out there, but it's very fun. I mean, it's very fun. It's a daily routine that is never exhausting. So
That's great. Yeah. And I think that's when you know that you took the right decision, when you are enjoying your job and you're being challenged and you learn. Yeah. So I know that makes me always so happy. Just 2 years into the career, it's like, oh, I'm so glad that even it was hard, I made it, and now in the older side, and I can say that yeah, it was the right decision. And I think this is again another great point of it's something that it feels natural at the end of the day for you because you have done it in the past. So for you, what are the skills that you took from your past experience and you brought it in as a researcher and as a designer that had helped you so far to be successful in the field?
there are a couple of them. I'd say that from logistics, one of the main things is that when it comes to freight forwarding specifically, which is like import and export for companies, it's a very complex area with a complex field with complex stakeholders. And I guess that's number one. Handling complex stakeholders is definitely something that really helped me coming into UX and working, especially in international projects. Being able to understand this type of people, and knowing how to handle it and talking to them, that was something very valuable that I brought from logistics to UX. Also, when it comes to like mediation, I guess two things they're very important. First, how to talk to people, how to talk to them, and second, how to see the problems from different angles, because that's something that we learn a lot when it comes to mediation. Sometimes there's a problem there between two people, and you want to be biased. You want to you from your point of view, somebody's right and somebody's wrong, but you cannot make this judgment. This judgment has to be made by the two people that you're trying to help. So I guess this type of thinking was something that really helps me when it comes to UX as well, especially when we are handling uh, specifically difficult projects with sensitive topics. That you need to go in an interview with zero judgment. So that's very helpful as well. And from the consulting context, I believe the whole researching and structuring information, because when it comes to UX, especially UX research, you need to be able to deliver data, right? To deliver good reports. Doesn't matter if you make great research, but you don't know how to pass that along. So that's something that I brought from consulting, and also from the whole aspect of university. I'd say, you're always having to work in groups and delivering projects, and I guess all of that comes to what we as UX designers do, at least a lot of in a lot of of our time, from in a great part of our time, working together, working with other people, sharing ideas, disagreeing is part of the job, and delivering like good reports and good insights, good findings, so whoever is receiving it reads it and likes what they are reading and understand that the research was well done.
I love the part of saying like sometimes we will disagree, and this is part of the process, because having all these like yeah, disagreements are you think that you shouldn't go there, but I think this is what at the end of the day is going to make the product better for the user, having these different points of view, but it is how do you manage the relationship between everybody. um, Love the part of the school projects because this is something that we do at school all the time, and we never pay attention what, or yes, like really bring over the experience from a school. Like we relegate it, like it's not important, but at the end of the day we have learned so much from it. And like you say, I feel like most of, I don't know, 80-90%, depending where we are in the spring, sometimes we don't even design. It's all
Yeah,
about talking to people, facilitating, explaining, uh, sitting down and talking about how to do it better. So yes, I feel like bringing and being really conscious about those skills are going to help anyone, again, to change careers.
for sure.
So for me, is like write down a list of the things that you have done in the past. And I think that will give you an idea of, okay, I have done all of this. So it's not that I'm starting from zero. But
Yeah, and
here, not everything is happy, and not everything is like, I love this, the ice cream flavors. Not everything is like bubblegum and happiness. So, what are the challenge that you have encountered, and what have you learned from it?
I guess the one that is the biggest challenge is still advocate for UX. Still showing stakeholders that UX a is not just usability tests and interviews. And that's pretty hard, especially when we encounter projects, especially when we have projects for big companies, really big companies, that you would think, okay, so they're like a huge company. They probably know what they're doing. They probably have a great UX structure. No, they don't. Like most of the time, they don't. And I guess that's the hardest part because it's very frustrating when you're trying to advocate for something, when you're trying to show people that, like, okay, I understand that we have a time limit there. I understand that we have like 2 weeks, 4 weeks to do something. But if we don't do any previous research, if we don't test this, then we are going to take more time fixing it than spending like 5 days doing some sort of research. And that's like the super frustrating part of it all, having to make people understand that UX is about, like, it's not only about simple things such as a proof of concept, but it's much more than that. And it's not even about only like putting users at the center, which is important. But if you think about like the that triangle where you have feasibility and viability and the user part of the process, if you think about business as well, you're losing money when you have to do things all over again because you did it wrong in the first place. So I guess that's like one of the most frustrating things when it comes to UX, is that part where we are not taking into consideration, and our job is just seen as something disposable, basically. Another thing that I find it super frustrating is, I mean, handling difficult stakeholders is something that we do. It's something that I've done for a long time now, but it's still annoying, sometimes, and it's very hard, especially when you meet somebody that, like, they clearly have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to UX, but they kind of want to show that, like, I'm the boss here and I know what I'm doing, and when they clearly don't. So that's also, those meetings that you really have to balance and you really have to think how you're going to approach that person. But it's still annoying. It's still something that is very challenging, especially in projects that are very important that you can't simply tell the person that like they're wrong. And another thing, and another thing I'd say is like teamwork. Teamwork, it's challenging sometimes. Sometimes we will encounter people uh, that they would just not think exactly like we do, which is great. But it's hard to talk to them. It's hard to get into a concept, getting into an agreement on how to proceed. It's hard to sell ideas to them. It's hard to make them understand that they are pitching ideas that are not good for the project, even though you bring examples and you bring all sorts of data why that idea is not a good idea. So sometimes we knock our heads, and it's very normal. And sometimes we have to switch a little bit of how is the team structure to make sure that everybody's happy working together, and that it's flowing, and that's something hard to do. That's something that it's super challenging because it's sometimes not always about challenges in the process or in the project, but within the team itself.
I wanted to ask you a little more about that. I do work in the same team every single time, as we don't change for now. So for me, it's like, yeah, we have built the relationship from day one, and because we have worked for a year and a half, we have these little bit more settled. Yes, like of course we have some stakeholders, but usually if they're new, our like business analysis is the person who managed that. But I think in consultancy, because you are managing so many different projects at one point, you just keep meeting new people. And maybe you have companies that come back to work in projects, but usually it's like new people. How is that
Yeah.
interaction? How do you build successful relationships? Because it's such a short period, and you want to make sure that the time for both of you are enjoyable at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah, so the way that we are structured is that we are we are in either one or two projects at once, and we can't always work with the same people, even if it's someone that we have a great relationship with, someone that we love to work with. We need to change a little bit because it depends on the skills that that each person has, and the type of the type of job that we will have to do. So that's why we cannot keep the same team every time. But I mean, that's it's good. There is a good part in it, and like, of course, a downside to it. The good part is that you do learn how to work with all sorts of people, know how to make sure that you build ideas together and you listen to other people, and you also, it's good for relationship building. All in all, it's something that it's very good. But the only downside is that, yeah, sometimes you're going to be in a team that just doesn't work so well together. And then we kind of, at the end of a project, we do a retro, and we understand what worked and what didn't work. And if we can see that, like, within that project, working with such and such person was something that was not enjoyable, then uh, when we try to structure teams for new projects, we try to keep those people apart. And I mean, I think it makes sense. You don't have to like everybody that you work with. You have to be respectful with them. You have to treat them well, but you don't have to love everybody that you work with. And that's fine. That's totally fine. And but that's more or less how it works in my company, at least when it comes to different projects.
No, yeah, I love it. That's really nice. I feel like before, and I mean, maybe for the next question, we can kind of mix it up as is. something that I didn't ask you at the beginning is like, how did you landed the job where you are right now? And a little more, maybe you can tell us into the strategist side, as we haven't touched that much about. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so regarding landing the job, basically, there are a couple of strategies that I've used. Uh, First was to really put myself out there on LinkedIn. And I know it's something that seems pretty obvious, but believe it or not, a lot of people that I talk to, because sometimes I make myself available to talk to people entering the field, kind of trying to give a little bit back to the community. And a lot of those people, they're like, I don't care about LinkedIn. Like I don't even have I don't do anything with my profile. My profile is never updated. And I'm like, no, please don't say that to me because like I know it's I know sometimes it can be an extremely toxic environment when it comes to LinkedIn. And I've been there. I know that it can be super frustrating to see people getting jobs in like 1, 2 months of career transitioning, and you're there like 6 months studying and putting your heart in that subject, and you still don't get the job. But first was having a very good LinkedIn, understanding like um, how to have a structure so recruiters could find me as somebody that is changing careers to UX. After that was having good connections. Was I started to build like connections with people from the field. Every time that I saw an opportunity of a mentorship or any talk relating to UX, I would be there. I would join and I would watch it, and I would ask somebody if they could talk to me and like check my resume, check my LinkedIn, check my portfolio, anything. I would take and all the free help that I could get. The third thing was to it was super. I didn't focus on super expensive courses first because I didn't. I mean, I read about UX and I thought, okay, that's cool. But do I want to do that for the rest of my life? I didn't know that. I didn't have that answer. So I signed up for a boot camp that it was like a super cheap one. And it was like in dollars, like $40, $45 for 2 months for a 2 month boot camp. It was really, really cheap. It wasn't like the the perfect boot camp, but the main things I was able to see the main things, but the most important part was not even that, was that my colleagues were all the time sending like, hey, there is this free course, there is this free material, there is this hackathon going on, there is this other thing going on. So like I started to know everything that was going on without even having to put any effort on it. They would just send like everything on our WhatsApp group. And that was super valuable to me because I was working like 8, 9, 10 hours a day at times. And sometimes I just didn't have the time to manage to see what was going on and what were the opportunities out there. And these people, they were really helping me out to know what was out there. And also the other thing, and it's a super important thing, is like there was a point in time that I panicked. Like I was, okay, I'm failing in this, I'm clearly doing something wrong. I mean, 2 months, 3 months, I didn't even got one job interview. I don't know what I'm doing. And that was when I started to realize that I should really focus on my progress and what I was doing. And I know that may seem so obvious, but sometimes it's just not. I was seeing these people like getting jobs and getting a bunch of landing a lot of interviews in such a small period of time, and I was like, why am I not being able to do this? But then when I was seeing their background, some of them had a super background in design already, which of course you don't need that to be a UX. However, it helps. It does help. At least when it comes to there are some companies that they really value a background in design when somebody's coming to UX. So I started to understand that like I wasn't them. I was doing my thing and I just should focus on doing my thing. And the funny part was that I actually got the interview for this job because the owner of the company messaged me on LinkedIn. Probably she saw me on either liking some post or somebody liked something that I posted. That's why being very active on LinkedIn is so important, because people ended up seeing you. And she messaged me and she was like, okay, I like your background in logistics. I like that you have English. Um we have an opening here. If you want to try it, just fill out this form. And I did, and I got the interview. And then I did like 3 interviews, and I got the job. And it was all because I was in logistics, and I was able to show people that, like, what were the skills there that could make me a good UX. And also because the project that I entered was regarding logistics, that also helped me a little bit. And English, of course. English, when it comes to Brazil, it's a very complicated topic, because I think, what, 1-2% of Brazilian population actually speak English, like very good English. So it's an incredible small amount. So if you do know English uh, here in Brazil, you are able to get more opportunities depending on the job that you're applying. But when it comes to technology, knowing English is very helpful. But basically, that's how I landed the job. I mean, I kind of follow those things, and the job actually found me. Basically, the CEO found me and sent me a message. But I think it was all because I put myself out there, and I was able to show people that I was working on being on becoming a UX designer.
Oh yeah, I love this, and I think and I always talk about what you start growing a plant or a tree. In this case, you start working and putting effort in it, and at one point you don't see anything coming up, and then one day you just wake and it's like poof, there is a tree. So I think it's a lot of this, even though it sounds like, oh, they just found you, but like when you start putting everything together, like being active on LinkedIn and showing what you care and putting out your voice and say, okay, I like this, so thank you for sharing, whatever it is, such an important skill. And I think for working in tech, I mean, if you are not in tech and you want to work in tech, doesn't make sense at the end of the day. How LinkedIn could be so powerful. And I think with a lot of people that I talk is like, are you following people that or companies that you're interested to work on, like are you following design, like I let's say just follow me, and then you start seeing who I'm connecting, and then you start connecting more people, you're going to start seeing jobs that you didn't see in your side, but because I like
Yeah.
it or because I like someone else then you can see it. So this is such a powerful tool for me. I mean, this is how both of us met.
Yeah,
So
true.
I think it's just so powerful. And then put on top of that community, yes. And in your case, it was a school, but it's like, are you talking with your friends and family about this change into UX? And they're going to start working towards this goal for you, yes? Because it's like if they hear UX to anyone or they hear tech, it's like, oh, I know someone who's changing careers and is looking for a job. So I feel like all of these just make your case stronger. The other part that you mentioned is concentrating your progress. I think we all go through that phase when it's like, why is like everybody getting a job? Why is like everybody better than me? And when
Yeah.
in reality, we are all so different and we have different strengths and we come from different paths. So we cannot compare. And I think when you start putting yourself, just staying on your line and say, look, what I'm good at, what are my strengths, and how can I lead with this? This is going to be just again so powerful for your journey into a new career. Um, yes, and I think those are the same ones. Yes, strengths and how to show two skills. Do you have any other tips that you can give people changing careers, or this is what it was? I know I broke them out, but yeah, if you have any other skills or tips, any other tips?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, I think those are the most important ones. Really, like working on, like put yourself out there on LinkedIn, building connections with people in the field, understanding that you are you, and like you have, as you said, uh, everybody has a different background and a different story, and sometimes it's hard for us to understand that, but that's what it is. And focusing on that helps us to don't lose our minds in this whole process. And yeah, I think those are the three things that I'd say that are the most important ones. Like, of course, there are a couple of other things, but those are it's pretty obvious. But like reading good books in the field, and like being on participating in like those conferences that we have where they have great speakers, even listen to good podcasts such as UX and Pain, where you have people talking about UX and people talking about the field. All of those things are very helpful for somebody that is not even only transitioning, but people already in the field, for us to learn, for us to keep growing, because it's a field where you have to keep learning, and you have to keep reading and studying and bringing knowledge, because it's a field that just keeps changing, and you have to improve and change along. So otherwise you just get behind.
Well, I mean, and I think for both of us is like the careers that we have before were not challenging enough, and we were like, oh, this is safe. So coming to a new career where is like changing because is growing and because is a bit is still new to the job market is like how are you keeping up and kind of finding your path at the end of the day. Yes, because I think this is so cool about UX design is how flexible it is depending of your strengths or depending where you want it to go. But let's finish up by talking a little bit of the market that's in tech and in UX design or research in Brazil. Because again, for me, this is the coolest thing about talking to you is you are there and you know what is happening. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So um right now, and we are in a especially complicated time in Brazil. I don't know if that's uh being news in other countries, but like in Brazil, as of right now, a lot of unicorns and a lot of tech companies, they have been laying off a lot of people. So as of right now, it's been a complicated scenario, because a lot of good people that they had their jobs, that they're basically going again to the market to looking for jobs, because they are being laid off. So a lot of companies, a lot of uh, unicorns and digital companies, they're extracting themselves, restructuring themselves. So it's been a little bit of confusing and messy right now when it comes to tech in Brazil. um, well, I guess we will have to wait and see how this will affect like the amount of jobs that we have now, and the amount of people that we can hold into tech, at least in this first moment, because a lot of people with a lot of experience are going back into the market, and that changed a little bit in the scale, right? And especially because you also have a lot of people trying to get into tech. So there's still like juniors, they're still uh they haven't developed a lot on their hard skills yet. So that's something that we ought to wait and see a little bit how it will go. The good part is I do see a bright future ahead of us when it comes to technology. Even though Brazil is Brazil, I mean, we still have a lot to cover. But when it comes to technology, I do see that it's something very strong that we have with us, and I do see a lot of professionals in Brazil very prepared, and much more prepared than professionals in some other countries, because we have to really hustle to get things. And I think that's why a lot of companies from overseas, they're trying to get professionals from Brazil, especially very experienced professionals like 4, 5, 6 years plus, because they know the quality of our people here when it comes to technology. And but basically that's it. That's the overview that I can give you. I mean, it's not easy right now when it comes to tech. And especially when it comes to junior positions. A lot of people, a lot of companies, they want to they don't want to have the time to teach people. They want to get those professionals they're already older and understanding how the business work to work for them, because they will pay them more. However, they will get maybe results earlier in the process. And everything right now is just so fast. But yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. This has been amazing. Again, thank you for join me a Saturday to talk
No,
about
I
your
thank you.
career. And again, I put Paula's information. You can find her in LinkedIn and ADP Liz. Again, and do not forget, for whoever is watching us, do not forget to subscribe so you don't miss people like Paula and her journeys. I think, again, this is for everybody to empower and learn a little bit about what we do day to day. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Julia. Bye, guys.
Thank you.